Hi y'all, I've got another video for you today. Today I'll be doing the end of year book survey. It's not quite a tag, but it looked like some fun. So the end of year book survey was originally developed by the Perpetual Page Turner blog. I saw another booktuber, I think Bedtime Bookworms, do this as a tag, and the questions look fun. It intrigued me, so I thought I'd go ahead and give it a try. It's a pretty lengthy survey. There are 30 questions. I thought, especially since I'm new to BookTube, it might give you all a better idea of what my tastes are. So, question 1. Best book you read in 2018. This was not hard. Bridges of Madison County by Robert James Waller. This is a novella. It's a romance novel. I think it outsold the Bible at one point. It's very popular. And this was fantastic. I've never read such an emotionally impactful book in such a small page count. Excellent. Question 2. Book you were excited about and thought you would love but didn't. For that, I'll be going with The Wrath of the Dawn, which is a YA retelling of Arabian Nights. I got this book from my library, and I was really excited to get it. It sounded like all the things I would love. I like retellings. I like Arabian Nights. I like great storytelling, and Arabian Nights is all about great storytelling. And I was really disappointed. It was not what I was expecting going in, and I ended up DNFing it. Question 3. Most surprising in a good or bad way book that you read. For this question, I picked Double Vision by L.M. Halloran. Double Vision is an adult romance novel, and found L.M. Halloran through some of her other books, and she's an indie author. She's rapidly become one of my favorites. This book, I did not like the protagonist for the first half of the book. I almost DNF'd it a couple times. I was really frustrated with her. But L.M. Halloran's an author I've come to trust in a little bit, so I gave it some more time, and I'm very glad that I did. This ended up being one of the most interesting explorations of the psychology behind the BDSM lifestyle that I've ever read. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and I believe in my review I wrote that this is what 50 Shades of Grey should have been. Question 4. Book you push people to read the most. Seeing as how my debut came out last year, I would say mine. Number 5, best series you started in 2018, best sequel of 2018, and best series in ender of 2018. So I guess that would be the series that I ended in 2018. So the best series I started in 2018, I'll go with the Iron Druid series by Kevin Hearne. The sequel of the Iron Druid series, Hexed, I would also say is the best sequel of 2018. The first book I gave 4 stars. The second book I really liked. I gave that 5 stars. Best series ender of 2018. I'm a little late to the Harry Potter game. I just finished Harry Potter this year. I went through all the books early in the year, so that's definitely the best series that I ended in 2018. Number 6, favorite new author you discovered in 2018. Tanya and Crosby. I was looking for a new adult romance, and I've seen her work before, but I've kind of avoided her because her covers look really cheesy. But I decided to give her a try. This was a historical romance about Vikings, and it ended up being really interesting and having some stuff in there I wasn't expecting. She took more historical context of Christianity versus paganism when the Vikings were doing their raiding and whatnot, and there were a lot of intermarriages between Vikings and their conquests. One of the theories being that they had disproportionate amount of female infanticide in their culture. That's a whole other thing. But this was a very real issue in that historical context, and it's a romance, and it doesn't try to not be a romance, but I really enjoyed how that was handled in the book. It impressed me, and I've been checking out a lot of her work ever since. Number 7, best book from a genre you don't typically read or was outside of your comfort zone. For this one, I'm going to pick Evalene's Number by Bethany. This name. I'm sorry, Bethany. I'm not even going to try to butcher your name. I'm sorry. I normally am not a fan of dystopias. I participated in December, which is a bingo-style reading game hosted by Megan Tennant, who is an author tuber here on YouTube. Basically, the idea is you fill in different blocks of the bingo card, you leave a review on Amazon, you get to claim that block. And I needed a dystopia, and I picked that one. I really enjoyed it. Again, she had a very Martin Luther kind of 1500s vibe. I enjoyed that it wasn't overly dark. I don't like dystopians, but this one was fine. I liked it. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. Question 8. Most action-packed, thrilling, and unput-downable book of the year. I don't read a lot of thrillers. I do like thrillers. I don't read a lot of thrillers. Had this on my shelf for years. I really liked this. There were some parts I found really predictable, but overall, I really enjoyed the heck out of it. So, The DaVinci Code, Dan Brown. Question 9. Book you read in 2018 that you would be most likely to reread next year. I rarely reread books. Very, very rarely. I can probably count on one hand the number of books I've reread ever. Not counting books for my kids. So I'm going to skip this question. Question 10. Favorite cover of a book you read in 2018. For this one, I'm going to pick The Clock Strikes by Sean Cunningham. It's a beautiful cover. I was struck by it first time I saw it. This is a novella that occurs in between his YA series. I ended up giving it 3 stars, and I said in my comment, this was advertised as a standalone. I don't believe it was a standalone because I got really lost. I think I needed more background, but the world building really was fantastic. It made me want to read his first book. I'll put a picture up of it. I forget the name, but the cover is just beautiful. I mean, look at it. Question 11, most memorable character of 2018. For this question, I'm going with Unseen by Eric Morgan, and I am going to pick the character of Mara. And I literally cannot tell you anything else because of spoilers.
That's for me to know and for you to ...
Question 12, most beautifully written book read in 2018. For this, I'm going to go for The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I'm normally not a fan of overly flowery prose, but given how dark this world was and just how freaking depressing it was, the writing really contrasted with the tone of the book in a way that was very artful. It took me a few chapters to get used to the prose, but I really liked it, and I felt like it was a perfect match for the tone of the book. Question 13, most thought-provoking or life-changing book of 2018. I wouldn't say this was life-changing, but it was certainly thought-provoking. This was a nonfiction, Your Brain on Porn by Gary Wilson. This was an analysis of modern pornography and how it relates in a non-religious way to neurobiology and psychology, and how it ties into addiction and how it can affect mood, depression, that sort of thing. It's a non-religious book. It had a lot of scientific study examples that I was familiar with because I do have a degree in biology. It's a very sex-positive book, but it does question some of the ways that modern technology and modern pornography can... The brain is very malleable, and he makes some arguments for, particularly in adolescence, how this could be a negative thing to be exposed to for certain types of pornography. I do have a bachelor in biology. I do not have a PhD. I do not have anything approaching a PhD. I was able to follow this just fine. I think it's fine for a layperson if you're interested in that sort of subject. There's actually a lot to talk about here. If you would be interested in me doing a review on this book, hit me up in the comments and let me know. Question 14, book you can't believe you waited until 2018 to finally read. Again, that's Bridges in Madison County. No one told me this was a romance. If I'd known this was a romance, I'd have picked it up years ago. So, bad people not telling me. Bad. Question 15, favorite passage or quote from a book you read in 2018. I don't really collect quotes, so I'm skipping this one too. Question 16, shortest and longest book you read in 2018. The shortest book would be We Should All Be Feminists by her. Not even going to try there. This is 48 pages, and they're tiny pages. The longest book I read was The Goldfinch by Donna Tart. And this tome was 771 pages long. It's also a really pretty cover that I like. Question 17. Book that shocked you the most because of a plot twist, character death, left you hanging your mouth wide open, etc. I was spoiled on Harry Potter book number 6, but Harry Potter book number 7 had some that I wasn't spoiled on, so I won't say anything because spoilers, but yeah, book number 7, Harry Potter. Some good shit in there. Question 18. OTP of the year. You will go down with this ship. So I'm going to have to look up what OTP means. I'm going to pick the Iron Druid series by Kevin Hearne. Atticus and Granuale. I suck at names. Atticus and the barmaid. They're so cute together. Number 19, favorite non-romantic relationship of the year. For this, I'm going to go with Royce and Hadrian from the Theft of Swords series by Michael J. Sullivan. I've read the first book on ebook. I used some Christmas money to get the second one, and these two have a great relationship. They've always got each other's back, but they're constantly snarking at each other and insulting each other, and it's a great friendship, and it's very entertaining. It's a lot of fun to spend time with. Question 20, favorite book you read in 2018 from an author you've previously read. I'm going to pick Harry Potter again on this one. I read the first 3 books when I was a teenager. Didn't get back into them until earlier this year, so that counts. Question 21, best book you read in 2018 that you read based solely on a recommendation from someone else, from peer pressure, from Bookstagram, etc. For this question, I picked Trial by Song by Alicia Gaile. This was part of the In December reading challenge that I participated in December, and I needed a retelling to fill in my bingo card, and I wanted to get that out of the way quickly because I was in the mood for a retelling, and that doesn't happen very often. This was the only one I knew about at the time. This was still fairly early on in the reading challenge. This is a Jack and the Beanstalk retelling, which I was really excited about because I see Cinderella, I see Snow White, I see Beauty and the Beast. I never see Jack and the Beanstalk. So it was really cool, and I really liked the retelling part of the book. It's contemporary. It is fantasy. There is a magic system. There are fae in this book, evil fae, but the characters themselves are a modern day kind of small southern town, and it was really good. It was darker than I normally like. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. It was a lot of fun. Number 22, newest fictional crush from a book you read in 2018. Don't normally do fictional crushes, but if I had to pick, I'd probably say Mark Watney from The Martian by Andy Weir. Nerd! Yeah. Number 23, best 2018 debut you read. For this one, I chose another one of my in December reads. This is Maize, The Girl Who Can See the Dead by Laura DeGlopper. And it is a short story. I don't even know if it's long enough to be a novella. But the world building was fantastic. I'm not used to seeing that level of world building in such a short story. It wasn't overly dark. I really liked it, and I was impressed by it. So I'm keeping an eye out to see what she does next. Number 24, best world building or most vivid setting you read this year. For this question, I chose Memoirs of a Geisha by author Golden. You think world building and vivid setting, you would think fantasy, but this book, I could see every scene very clearly. I could get the feel of the room. The author did a fantastic job of setting the scene and really exploring this culture that I wasn't very familiar with. It's a Japanese culture of the geisha, and it's so good. Number 25, book that put a smile on your face or was the most fun to read. I'm a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, so I'm going to go with Mark Field's guide, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Myth, Metaphor, and Morality. He goes episode by episode through the entire series, exploring different themes and different philosophies that the show touches on, and it gave me a whole new level of appreciation for my favorite show, and I really, it's nonfiction, but I enjoyed every minute of it. It was a lot of fun, and I think it's like 99 cents, so if you're a Buffy fan, you should definitely pick that up. Number 26, book that made you cry or nearly cry in 2018. I rarely cry in books because I rarely pick up books that would make me cry. Circular logic there, I know. But for this one, definitely I picked A River in Darkness by the author, whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce. This was an incredible work about one man's escape from North Korea and his ensuing struggle to get his family out of the country and try to find some semblance of freedom and the ability to, eat every day. This would be a great book for someone who doesn't read a lot of nonfiction but wants to try. It reads like a novel. It really does. I cannot give enough credit to the translators for the amazing job they did at capturing the author's tone and voice and what had to be some difficult word choices as far as, the language barrier goes. Normally, translated fiction, you lose a lot of the art that goes into writing. You got it in this book. This book was heart-wrenching, and there's a part, without giving spoilers, but there's a part where I was just thinking, oh God, we're nearing the end, and it's going to be this huge, awesome thing, and then it just kind of pinged in the back of my mind. This isn't fiction. And, there was bawling. There was this man's incredible journey and the regrets he has in life and the deep love he clearly has for his family. It was incredibly touching and tragic, and it's one of those books everyone should read. It's not a particularly long read. Definitely pick it up. Question 27, Hidden Gem of the Year. For this one, I'm going to pick Unseen by Eric Morgan. This was my most memorable character question as well. This is a psychological thriller. It's told in 3 different perspectives. One thing I like is when there's a lot of different perspectives, I like when they tell you with a chapter title whose perspective it is so you don't get lost, and this does that. This mostly follows a small southern town police detective, kind of a horn dog, and he decides he wants to seduce the local forensic DNA analyst. But while he's trying to seduce her, he stumbles upon an underground child pornography ring. The book explores a lot of themes. It talks about American rape culture. It talks about the internal rationale of pedophiles. It talks about why it's so difficult to prosecute these sorts of cases. And it's not overly dark, which I like. I'm not a fan of grimdark. The main character of Butch he's just entertaining, and he's constantly putting his foot in his mouth. Eric Morgan is an indie author, but the book itself was actually endorsed by a number of former FBI agents who have worked on these sorts of cases, and most notably by one of the cold case psychological consultants for the FBI who does a lot of psychological profiling. So the psychology in this book is very interesting, and the way it's told through storytelling. It's certainly a work of fiction, but it's almost one part psychological thriller, one part academic exercise. I found this author from his debut, and that seems to be his style. But this is a definite hidden gem, and if that sounds interesting to you, you should check it out. We're getting close to the end. We're getting close. Number 28, Book That Crushed Your Soul. don't really read soul-crushing books, so skip. Number 28, most unique book you read in 2018. For this, I chose Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield. This is a novel about the Battle of Thermopylae, which, if you're familiar with the movie 300, this is the 300.
This is Sparta!
And it's told through the perspective of one of the Spartan squires. And the squire is a man who immigrated to Sparta because he admired the Spartan society, even though he would never be eligible for full citizenship. So I really like the way that was done. Normally you would be told the story through the perspective of one of the Spartans. That's what you would expect. But this gave the author a chance to explore this kind of alien culture right along with the reader. There was a ton of research that clearly went into this book. It was beautifully written, and I really enjoyed it. Last one, question 30. Book that made you the most mad doesn't necessarily mean you didn't like it. And for this one, I picked We Should All Be Feminists. And the reason why is, you see how tiny this is? I was told I'd be getting a book, and this is not a book. This is a brochure, and this was, I think it still is one of the best-selling books on feminism, and I wanted to read more about feminism, so I thought, hey, get the bestseller. 48 pages. It's 48 pages, and they're tiny pages, and they're like, look at how big the text is. Look, it's enormous, and it's double-spaced, and this is clearly nothing but filler, and it pissed me off. And another thing that upset me about it is all of the arguments for feminism and for equality and all the accolades that this work offers. It's based on a lot of awkward social situations that the author was involved in over in Africa. There's no underlying theories, there's no justifications, there's no methodology, or there's nothing here except what she thought was happening in other people's heads during awkward social situations in Africa. This tells me a lot about how she sees the world, but it gives me nothing about what she's trying to say. You can't project an idea into someone else's head, say, oh, this is what he must have been thinking, and make that a core argument. It doesn't work. So I wasted my money. That's it from me today. Talk to me in the comments. Tell me if you've read any of the books I mentioned today, or if you're interested in reading any of the ones I mentioned. I would love to hear from you. So until then, bye-bye. How's that? Okay. Is that good? That's all good? Good, good. This was part of the Indie December reading challenge. This was part of the the main character, what's his name? Number 26, book that made you cry or nearly cry. Evalene's Number by Bethany A. Where were we? We were doing something. Lost my place.